Cacti are famous for one thing above all else. People call them the plant that refuses to die. Yet, here you are. Somewhere in your home, or in the home of someone you know, there might be a cactus dying right now. Slowly. Quietly. And it isn't because anyone forgot about it. Four things. Working together or working against each other, they decide whether a cactus thrives for decades or fades within a single year. Once you understand them, you will never look at a cactus the same way again. Let's start with light, because this is where most people get it backwards. You might assume a cactus wants as much sun as you can possibly give it. Full blast, all day, every day. That instinct feels right. Cacti come from deserts. Deserts are bright, but researchers studying drought-adapted plants at the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, have shown something more nuanced than that. Light damage in these species isn't only about too little sun, it's about sudden extremes. A cactus that has spent months indoors adjusted to soft window light can be scorched within hours if you move it straight into a summer noon. It surprises most people. The tissue actually burns. Not metaphorically. The surface turns a dull yellow, then a scarred brown, and that damage never fully heals. It stays there. A permanent record of one afternoon's mistake, carried on the plant's skin for years. So what does a cactus actually need? Most species want at least 6 hours of bright light a day. A south-facing window is often ideal in temperate climates. But intensity matters as much as duration. If you're moving a plant from a dim corner to a bright ledge, or from indoors to an outdoor patio for the summer, you do it in stages. A few hours the first day, a little more the next. Over a week or two, the plant builds tolerance the way skin builds a tan. Skip that process, and you get scars that outlast the season, sitting there on the surface long after the mistake itself is forgotten. Think about how strange that is for a moment. A plant famous for loving the sun can be injured by the sun, not because the sun is too strong in general, because the change was too fast. The plant had no time to adjust its internal chemistry, the pigments that shield its tissue from ultraviolet stress. Give it time, and that same plant can sit in blazing midday heat without a mark on it. Deny it time, and a single afternoon leaves a scar that lasts for years. This is the pattern you'll notice again and again with cacti. It's rarely about more or less. It's almost always about the speed of the change. Now think about soil. This is where the second myth lives, and it's a quieter one. Most people pot a cactus the way they'd pot anything else. Regular potting mix, straight from the bag. It looks fine. It feels fine. But ordinary potting soil is built to hold moisture, because most houseplants evolved on forest floors, not in deserts. That moisture-holding structure is precisely wrong for a cactus's roots. Here's where the research gets genuinely interesting. Nobel, a plant physiologist who spent much of his career at UCLA studying desert vegetation, documented something remarkable about cactus root systems. Cacti don't send roots deep into the earth searching for buried water reserves. Instead, their roots spread wide and shallow, just beneath the surface, ready to absorb even a brief, light rainfall before it evaporates. Some species grow entirely new roots, sometimes called rain roots, within hours of a storm, and then let those same roots die back once the ground dries again. Why does that matter for the soil sitting in your pot right now? Because a shallow, wide root system, one that evolved to catch fleeting moisture and nothing more, is not built to sit for days inside a dense, water-retaining mix. It needs air pockets between the particles. It needs material too coarse and too gritty to hold water for long. The ideal substrate leans heavily on rough texture, things like sand, perlite, pumice, or crushed lava rock, mixed in generous proportion, not sprinkled on top as an afterthought. Think about it this way. Ordinary potting soil behaves like a sponge. What a cactus root actually wants is closer to gravel, with just enough organic matter to hold everything loosely together. Picture the difference at the level of a single root hair. In dense soil, that root hair sits surrounded by water for hours, sometimes days, after every watering. In loose, gritty soil, the water drains through within minutes, and air rushes back in behind it. Roots need that air almost as much as they need the water itself. Without oxygen at the root zone, tissue starts to break down from the inside, quietly, long before anything visible shows up above the soil line. By the time you notice a problem at the surface, the damage below has often been building for weeks. This is why so many cactus deaths get blamed on the wrong cause. Someone waters carefully, sparingly, exactly by the book, and the plant still collapses. The water wasn't the mistake. The soil holding onto that water for too long was. And this connects directly to the third factor, the one people underestimate the most. The container itself. A pot without a drainage hole is functionally a bucket. Water goes in, and it has nowhere left to go except sit at the bottom, right against the roots, for days at a time. Even the best soil mix in the world can't fully compensate for that. Horticultural researchers at the Desert Botanical Garden in Phoenix, who work directly with arid-adapted plants in a genuine desert climate, have long pointed to container choice as a variable most home gardeners overlook entirely. It isn't only about the hole in the bottom. Material matters too, and it matters more than people expect. Terracotta, the classic unglazed reddish clay pot, is porous. It breathes. Moisture moves slowly through the clay walls and evaporates from the outside, pulling excess water out of the soil faster than a sealed plastic pot ever could. Plastic holds moisture in. For most houseplants, that's a convenience. For a cactus, it can be the quiet, invisible reason a plant that looks perfectly healthy in October is a soft, collapsed mess by December. Have you ever wondered why the exact same plant seems to do fine at a friend's house, in a similar room, on a similar schedule, and struggles at yours? Now you know one likely answer. It might not be you at all. It might be the pot. Which brings us to the fourth piece, and maybe the most misunderstood one of all: winter. Cacti aren't static organisms that behave the same way 12 months out of the year. As daylight shortens and temperatures drop, most species enter a genuine dormancy. Their metabolism slows. Growth all but stops. This isn't the plant giving up. It's the plant conserving itself for a season it has evolved to expect, going back millions of years, long before there were windowsills or grow lights or heated apartments. During this period, a cactus needs far less light-driven growth and far less encouragement to keep pushing forward. It wants a cool spot, ideally somewhere that stays above freezing but is noticeably colder than the rest of your home. And this part is counterintuitive for a lot of people, so let it sit for a second. Denying a cactus its winter rest, keeping it warm and bright and stimulated all year round, doesn't make it healthier. Quite often it does the opposite. Plants forced to stay active through what should be their resting season tend to grow long, pale, and structurally weak, stretching toward light in a season that offers very little of it. There's a name for that: etiolation. And once a cactus stretches that way, the new growth rarely corrects itself again. Worse, a cactus that never truly rests often fails to flower the following spring. The dormancy isn't an inconvenience to work around. It's part of the exact mechanism that produces the bloom you're hoping to see months later. There's something almost human about this, isn't there? A body pushed to perform at full output every single day, with no season of rest, eventually breaks down in ways that have nothing to do with any single mistake. A cactus is no different. It has a rhythm written into it by a few million years of desert winters, cold nights, and short days. Ignore that rhythm for long enough, and the plant pays for it quietly, one thin, pale stem at a time. And here's the part almost nobody expects. A cactus that spends its winter cool, dim, and resting will often outgrow, outlast, and outflower one that was pampered with warmth and light through every month of the year. Comfort, applied at the wrong time, is its own kind of neglect. So here's the full picture, all four pieces together. Light that builds gradually instead of arriving all at once. Soil structured for air and drainage instead of moisture retention. A container that lets excess water escape instead of trapping it against the roots. And a winter season that's honored instead of ignored, out of some well-meaning instinct to keep everything green and growing. None of these four things on its own will kill a cactus quickly. That's exactly why they're so easy to miss. A little too much shade for a few weeks, soil that's slightly too dense, a plastic pot instead of terracotta, a warm, bright windowsill straight through January instead of a cool, quiet one. Each choice, in isolation,